to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with my latest mock draft, and I'm sure I'll have a couple more of these leading up into the draft. This, of course, being my first after NFL free agency, so there's been a lot of changes, right? We've seen some big names go to some new locations, and it's definitely shook up the draft. There's been some trades, things like that, and it was very interesting to see the importance on positions for these teams before and after free agency and how it may affect the stock of some of these players, of where they may go. For instance, I thought the offensive line is actually more important for some teams. You take a look at the Arizona Cardinals. They went out, they got their wide receiver. The Titans lost Conklin, with a number of other teams that I think could definitely be looking on offensive linemen that may not have been before, but we'll get into it throughout the video, along with a lot of other things. So we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out, but I thought it was incredibly interesting, and I wanted to jump right into it. This one will be without trades. I kind of just wanted to reassess the needs of all the teams. I'll have another mock draft hopefully in about a week or two with trades. I'll have a 2-round mock draft, and I'll have a New York Giants only 7-round mock draft, so be on the lookout for that. But here we are with the Cincinnati Bengals, and to me it's cut and dry. It really is. I don't see anything changing. I don't care what rumors are out there about the quarterback position. They need a quarterback. They're in a position to take one. Joe Burrow had the greatest season arguably ever at the quarterback position for LSU. He said that he'll play for anybody, as he should. It could cost him millions of dollars if he slips down. It's going to be hard trucking for Burrow. He's going to have to be great to get that team back on track, but if anybody could do it, it's Burrow. They have a lot of needs over there, but they definitely have some offensive weapons, and we'll see what Joe Burrow can do for the Cincinnati Bengals, see if he can do more for them than what Andy Dalton did. Next up, we got the Washington Redskins, and we've all heard the rumors about Tua. We've heard the rumors about potentially going out there and acquiring Cam Newton, or they will stick with Dwayne Haskins, which is probably, in my opinion, the smarter approach to see what this guy's got one more year. Of course, the offensive line could definitely use some bolstering, but there's a player here they cannot pass up. They just can't, in my opinion. Now, anything can happen on draft night. Shocking things happen. But Chase Young to the Washington Redskins, to me, makes too much sense. You bolster that defense. You get a premium pass rusher, the safest player in this year's draft, in my opinion. Usually when you have a top-tier generational talent at that position, more than likely you're going to work out. Much safer than any other position in the draft. And that is why I have Chase Young going to the Redskins. And I'm not too happy about that. Next up, we got the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions in this mock. I don't have them trading down. There's no trades. They're certainly in a position to. But yeah, they kind of had a swap there at the cornerback position, but it was thought they were going to take a cornerback position when they had, when they had him on their roster anyway. So I still view it as a need for the Detroit Lions. They run a defense that needs good corners. Everything you read, the Detroit Lions run a defense that needs good corners. Jeffrey Okudah is one of the more talented corners to come out of college in quite some time. He's tall, he's fast, he's strong. He had an impressive combine. The guy did not commit one holding or pass interference penalty all of last year for Ohio State. That is ridiculous to me. I am very, very impressed with this young prospect. The Giants obviously don't need him, being that they addressed, the corner with Bradbury. If they did, I would have been open to even potentially drafting him there. But it makes too much sense for the Detroit Lions for me. I have them going there whether they trade down to 5 or whether they stay at 3. Next up, the New York Giants, and the New York Giants, flip a coin here, guys. I mean, really, I think the fan base is completely divided here on what they should do. In terms of free agency, what did the Giants do? They focused heavily on the defense. Yes, they brought in Cam Fleming, but Cam Fleming, to me, is a swing tackle. He could play some right, he could play some left. He's getting paid $4 million for a reason. He's not going to be your tackle for the foreseeable future. They addressed the linebacker position, but they didn't get a coverage linebacker. So Simmons is still open here. No doubt about it. I'm not ruling that out. But when I looked at the map and when I thought about it from the perspective of the general manager and the importance at the offensive tackle position now for a lot of these teams, I don't think Austin Jackson's getting to me in the second round. I know Josh Jones ain't getting to me in the second round. So because of that, I've got to go offensive tackle if I'm Dave Gettleman. That's just my opinion. I would look to trade down first. I don't have trade downs in this mock draft. And there's a number of guys you go with, right? There's 4 guys at the top of the draft charts that a lot of people say interchangeable. Could go to the New York Giants. Becton, Wills, Thomas. I've got Wirfs. I was impressed with Wirfs' combine. I'm impressed with Wirfs' tape. Some people say he's more of a guard. I like him at the tackle spot, but even if he doesn't work out there and you transfer him to the guard where everybody says he's a potential all-pro talent, Zeitler only carries a $2 million dead cap hit next year. He's getting up there in age. You could elect to do that, especially if Zeitler regresses. and you feel like Wirfs is better suited at the guard. You could shift Wirfs over to the guard. You could cut Zeitler and Solder, who is definitely getting cut. You'd have $26 million saved. You could add a left tackle in free agency, or you could add another player and draft a left tackle in the following draft. So I just think he's the safest of the offensive linemen in this year's draft, and I think he's more than suitable to at least play the right tackle in the pros. That is why I got the New York Giants taking Tristan Wirfs. The Giants, of course, have also been linked to Wirfs for a very long time. Next up, we've got the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have 3 picks here in the first round, and they have a lot of needs, but they addressed a lot of them in free agency. If there was a free agent, they ended up in Miami. But they still have a lot of needs, and they still need a quarterback. And there's one that fell right into their laps, being that there's no trades in this one. But I don't think they're going to have to trade up. And if they do, it'll be a small trade, because so many teams that needed a quarterback before, the Bucs, the Colts, the Panthers, they no longer need one. The Panthers signed Teddy Bridgewater. So because of that, I think it's very possible the Dolphins just end up with 2 at 5. Maybe they have to trade up to 4 with the Giants or 3 with the Lions, being scared that the Chargers can move up and get them. One thing that one of my subscribers pointed out that I thought was really smart, the Chargers elected to add a right tackle, which may be thinking to his blind side. Maybe the Chargers will be interested in him, but we'll have to wait and see. 2, though, I got going to the Miami Dolphins at number 5. They've been linked together for quite some time. They get the quarterback of the future. Next up, we got the Chargers, and the Chargers could go Simmons here, but Rivers is obviously gone. They have a hole there. Is Tyrod Taylor really your answer? To me, you got to go with the quarterback here. You got to shore that up. You don't know when you're going to be picking next year in the first round. Who knows how well your team's going to do? You have an opportunity here to take the 3rd quarterback off the board, that being Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, a West Coast guy, a guy I'm really impressed with, a guy I would have been happy with if he landed on the Giants last year had he elected to come out. He's tall. He's got a strong arm. He's smart. He's got most of the physical tools that you would want in a quarterback. He makes a lot of sense here to the Chargers. Next up, Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers, of course, new coach. A lot of new changes there. Turnover of roster. They lose Luke Kuechly. You've got a supreme talent sitting in your lap to fill in that linebacker void. Isaiah Simmons. And in this scenario, I think they got to take him. You fill in for Luke Kuechly's void. This guy could do everything. He could play the slot. He could play the safety. He could play the inside. He could play the outside at the linebacker position. Great talent there. And, he's your dynamic playmaker for the next, hopefully, decade if you're a Panthers fan. Next up, Arizona Cardinals. And the Arizona Cardinals, my last mock draft, I had them pairing the Oklahoma receiver with the Oklahoma quarterback. I bought into the rumors with CeeDee Lamb, but that all changed now. They go out, they get DeAndre Hopkins. Well, now you got to protect your quarterback, and I thought that was the biggest need before. I think it's definitely the biggest need now. You got your wide receiver. Now you need to protect for your quarterback, and you got the Mauler from Louisville. Mekhi Becton, standing at like 6'7". I think he's like 365 pounds. This guy is ridiculous. And, when you watch him on film, he's definitely a potential elite talent, and you got him protecting for Murray for the next 10 years. Next up, Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars have lost their entire defense. 2016, they had the best defense in football. They're all gone. And I still think Yannick Ngakoue is going to get traded. So I'm definitely open to taking an edge rusher here if I'm the Jaguars. I also lost Marcel Darius. Derek Brown's on the board. Derek Brown, in my opinion, the best defensive tackle in this year's draft. You could also line him up on the outside. He's versatile. He's very athletic for a man of his size. Out of Auburn, Derek Brown, give me him in the Jaguars. Makes too much sense. Next up, Cleveland Browns. Browns, to me, they got one glaring hole here. Now, they definitely addressed it with Conklin, but they could definitely still use some more help on that line at the left tackle. It was a bad line last year. You got your quarterback killed left and right with Baker Mayfield. You had a disappointing season. Now you go out there, you add all these weapons. If you could get Andrew Thomas here at 10 and pair him up with Conklin, all of a sudden you got 2 good young tackles for that young quarterback. Browns are looking good in the future. I love this pick if they could get Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. This guy was thought to be the second best prospect like a month ago. And I still think he could go forward to the Giants. He could go anywhere. But I got Thomas here going to the Browns. And if it's not Thomas, it'll be somebody else, in my opinion, that's an offensive lineman. Next up, we got the New York Jets. And the New York Jets saw 3 offensive linemen go off. They could definitely take a wide receiver. But last year, they neglected fixing the offensive line. This year, they've made it a focal point. They signed McGovern. They still need a tackle. Could they go Judy here? Absolutely. Could they go CeeDee Lamb? 100%. And I wouldn't bat an eye if they did. But I got them making sure they fix that offensive line for Darnold. Because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing for a young quarterback. They got Wills there. Jedrick Wills, a lot of people say is the most well-rounded offensive lineman in this year's draft. And I just love the fit here. You know, he's a guy that commits too many penalties. People say he's a right tackle, but he was the blindside protector for Tua. Regardless, you're getting yourselves a very good offensive lineman for a long time if you're the New York Jets. Give me Wills to the Jets. Next up, we've got the Las Vegas Raiders. Get used to saying that, guys. And the Raiders, to me, they need a weapon. I mean, they definitely focused heavily on that defense in free agency. They could use a wide receiver. You got Tyrell Williams there, but you need another receiver. And you're going to Vegas. You want some pop. You want some flair. Who better to bring that for you than Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama? You could certainly go CeeDee Lamb as well in this spot. You got 2 picks. You could still address that cornerback position at 19. That is why I got Jeudy going to the Raiders. Next up, you got the 49ers. Niners, of course, traded up to get this pick. They gave up DeForest Buckner. They take the Colts' 13th overall selection. You want to talk about another team that needs some punch at the wide receiver position. They lose Emmanuel Sanders. Yeah, they got Deebo Samuel, but they could definitely use an elite weapon at that position. And you got one staring you right in the face. CeeDee Lamb impressed at the Combine. He's impressed throughout his entire career at Oklahoma. He's got hands. He runs routes well. He's fast. He does it all. Great pick here by the 49ers. Now you got weapons galore. You got Kittle. You got Lamb. You got Samuel. The Niners are looking like they're trying to compete again to go to the Super Bowl. Love the pick here for the San Francisco 49ers. They still got another one to come. Next up, Tampa Bay Bucks sitting at 14. In my last mock draft, I had the Bucks actually trading up to get Jordan Love, a quarterback I love, but they got Tom Brady. And I don't think you're drafting a quarterback if you got Tom Brady. Tom Brady would be pissed. Tom Brady wants as much help that he can get to win. Now, he's 43 years old. The Bucks are in win-now mode. Bruce Arians' offensive mind needs some help on the defense, though. And you got a defensive tackle here that could certainly help you. McCoy obviously gone. Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina, the big beefy defensive tackle. I think this is about where he should go. You're getting fair value, fills a hole, helps the defense. Give me him to the Bucks. Next up, Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos got the big arm quarterback, Drew Lock. And maybe you could beef up that offensive line for him, but I think you really need a weapon. You know, you go center in the second round. Obviously, you lost your center, and the offensive line was not very good last year. So I would not be shocked if Denver goes offensive line. But I've had Ruggs going to them for the first 2 mocks. I'm going to continue to do so. Ruggs only helped his stock at the Combine. He ran a 4.2940, maybe a 4.28, whatever it was. Athletic freak, reminds me of Deshaun Jackson when he first came into the league, which is why I don't want him ending up with the Philadelphia Eagles. Henry Ruggs is a dynamic weapon and something that the Denver Broncos and Drew Lock can use. Next up, Atlanta Falcons. Now, I've had Atlanta Falcons taking K'Lavon Chaisson, I think in my first 2. Maybe I had Epinesa in my first one. But regardless, I thought they needed an edge rusher. They could certainly still use one. But, of course, they brought in Fowler. They need some help at the linebacker spot. You got a linebacker here, very athletic. Fits the mold of what the Atlanta Falcons usually try to do. They look for athletes. You go back and look over the course of history. That's what they do. And because of that, I got them taking Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma. Great side-to-side quickness. Love this pick. I think it's a good fit. I think he fills a hole for them. And he's a guy you can stick in the middle of that defense for a long time. Next up, Dallas Cowboys. My last mock, I had the Dallas Cowboys going with the safety, Xavier McKinney out of Alabama. They, of course, lost Byron Jones. I expected that to happen. But they need some help in that secondary. And I think they're definitely going to address the secondary with this pick. But instead of going safety here, I had them going corner. I had them going C.J. Henderson out of Florida. Henderson's a guy he could easily be the best corner in this year's draft if you talk to a lot of people. Okuda's the favorite, and that's why, he's definitely safer. Henderson's got a lot of raw tools, though. If he could fix his technique a little bit from what they say, he's got a lot of potential. Maybe needs to put on a couple extra pounds of muscle. But Henderson of the Cowboys here at 17 makes a lot of sense. Next up, Miami Dolphins. Dolphins took a quarterback there with Tua at number 5 overall. And now, well, what do you need when you got a young quarterback? What did the Giants just do? You need somebody to block for him. And you got four offensive tackles already off the board. And we're going to have them taking Josh Jones. And if the Dolphins don't go tackle here, I think they'll go tackle at 26. Jones has moved up mocks as well, impressed people at the Combine. Big offensive tackle out of Houston. You need some help to make sure Tua stays on his feet. Of all people, you want to make sure you have a strong offensive line for the fragile Tua. So there you go. Josh Jones helps him there. Next up, we got the Raiders. Raiders, of course, took a wide receiver with their first overall selection, and they really addressed the defense a lot in free agency. They even brought in a cornerback, the former New York Giant Eli Apple. But we all know Apple's not a number one corner. They could still use some help in that secondary as they've really tried to fix that defense this offseason. The Raiders are looking to compete in the AFC West. Keep your eyes open for them. I don't see them passing the Chiefs, but I think they're going to be improved, and they're going to improve their secondary even more by bringing in Stephon Diggs' brother, Trayvon Diggs. Again, out of Alabama. Get used to saying that. But I like this pick a lot. I think he's going to be a good corner in the NFL, and the Raiders could use one. Next up, we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars, like I said, have a lot of holes in that defense. They filled the hole left by Darius by bringing in Derek Brown. I still think they're going to trade Unique. They drafted Josh Allen last year, but they could use another edge rusher, somebody that could get after the quarterback. You're getting good value here, a guy I really like. He'd be a perfect fit for New England if he falls to 23, or the Giants. He's never fallen out of the first round, though. K'Lavon Chaisson is a guy that I really love, incredibly versatile, could do a lot of things, may not be the best fit here for Jacksonville, but they just need as many good players as they could get. They like to build around that defense like they did in 16. I think they're going to continue to do that. Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles could go corner, but most people think they're going wide receiver, and I tend to agree. You got the top 3 wide receivers off the board. Of course, they could trade up. I may do that in my next mock draft. We'll have to wait and see. But here with the Eagles staying at 21, I got them taking the wide receiver that most people think that they covet out of LSU, Justin Jefferson. Really good player, and something that they need. They need some help there at that receiver position. Last year, Carson Wentz got it done with almost no weapons. Everybody went down. Next up, we got the Minnesota Vikings, and we got another Tiger coming off the board, that being Christian Fulton. The cornerback, of course, the Vikings lost their number one corner to the free agency. That's a hole they have to fill. They have a ton of holes on the defense. They could certainly go offensive line with their second pick. I didn't do that, but that would be another offensive lineman that could fall off the board in the first round. I got them addressing the corner here with their first of 2 picks, though. This, of course, being the pick that they acquired from Buffalo, where they lost their wide receiver, Stephon Diggs. Hint, hint, to pick number 25. Next up, the New England Patriots. New England Patriots, to me, they're in rebuild mode at this point in time. We'll have to wait and see. I would never count a team out with Bill Belichick, though. I think they need a quarterback. Maybe they believe in the guy they got. They lose Tom Brady. They lose a lot of weapons on the defensive end. You're getting such good value here with a guy that I love. No pun intended. I love Jordan Love. And if he falls to New England, I'm scared for the AFCs. I really am. I think Belichick with that offense, Jordan Love, I think he'd make him an elite pro, no doubt in my mind. And I love the fit here if he goes to New England. Next up, the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints need some help at that wide receiver position. Yes, they have Michael Thomas, but after him, they don't have much. Defense is pretty strong. They have a very strong run game. You're trying to help out Drew Brees in the later part of his career. This might be his last year, might have one more year, but regardless, you're a team trying to compete now. A wide receiver would certainly help that. I'm going to have them taking the same wide receiver I did last time. I think he fits with the turf in New Orleans, a speedy receiver. Brandon Ayuk, you put him opposite Thomas. Oh, baby. You got some fireworks. Next up, we got the Vikes again, and this at their original pick at 25. Of course, they addressed the cornerback position at 22. Now I'm going to have them fill in the other void that they lost when they traded Stephon Diggs, and I don't think they miss a beat. They got a ton of picks for Stephon Diggs, 22 being one of them, and a lot of later round picks. Now they get a wide receiver I think fills in the void just fine. Denzel Mims, very polished wide receiver out of Baylor, really impressed people at the Combine. You've seen him soar up mock charts. Love the pick here for the Minnesota Vikings. I think it makes a lot of sense. They could certainly go offensive line, though, and try to address the wide receiver in round 2. That would not shock me either. So look at all the offensive linemen that are already off the board, and I'm even passing up offensive linemen with teams that have that as a clear need. That being the Minnesota Vikings, that being a few other teams. But we're going to see another offensive lineman come off the board very shortly. Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins. They've already taken an old lineman. They've taken a quarterback. Here, you have a coach that came from the mind of Bill Belichick with New England, Flores. He had Patrick Graham as his DC last year. Patrick Graham believes in versatility. Graham, of course, comes over to the New York Giants, but I would have to think Flores has the same mentality of Judge, being that they're both young, they both learned under Belichick. You want guys that could do a variety of things on your defense. I loved him to New England in my last mock. He falls to Miami in this one. A.J. Epinesa out of Iowa. This guy was being mocked in the top 10 to 15 about a month ago. Had a disappointing combine, ran like a 5.04, whatever it was. He falls here to Miami at 26. I would love him to fall to the Giants at 36, but I don't see that happening. Miami gets him. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks, and we're going to have another edge rusher falling off the board, and something that Seattle could certainly use. We'll see if they keep Jadeveon Clowney. That's yet to be determined, but even if they do, I think it'll be a one-year deal. Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State, to me, makes too much sense. Love this kid. Love his story. Love his upside. Maybe needs to put on some more muscle, but really good athlete. I love Matos. Give me Matos to the Seahawks. Next up, Baltimore Ravens. And the Ravens, of course, lost Yanda. Yanda is a guard, though. I don't see any elite guards going early in this year's draft. Maybe you could add a tackle. I don't see it. You need some help at that linebacker position. You've addressed the defense. You brought back some pieces, but you need a linebacker. And they're going to get Patrick Queen out of LSU. You've seen a lot of LSU players. You've seen a lot of Alabama players. No coincidence. Patrick Queen, very good linebacker, obviously, came in this year to become the full-time starter and took off. Had a great year for LSU. Love him in Baltimore. Next up, Tennessee Titans. I'm going to have them taking a lineman. Another lineman off the board. Obviously, Jack Conklin left. They elected to pay Tannehill $30 million. Well, if you're paying $30 million for him, you better make sure you can block. Of course, you got Henry. You better make sure you can block for him. That's what they're going to do. They lose Conklin, arguably their most accomplished lineman, and they're going to fill him in with Austin Jackson out of USC. Really good tackle. A lot of people think he could be, a good tackle at the pro level. I wouldn't say great, but they need something on that line. Next up, Green Bay Packers. Packers need a wide receiver. They lose Jimmy Graham. Not that he was a great weapon, but he was a weapon. Devontae Adams, to me, is really the only threat on that offense. They definitely need some help in the middle as well to stop the run. That was a huge weakness of theirs last year. They could elect to find a player to try to do that, but I'm going to have them go in wide receiver, get themselves a tall threat for Aaron Rodgers as they try to give it one more go at a potential Super Bowl for Rodgers. They give him a little more help there. T. Higgins out of Clemson. Tall wide receiver could go up there, catch the 50-50 ball. We all know how much Aaron Rodgers loves to throw those Hail Marys. Next up, San Francisco 49ers. This will be their second pick in the first round, number 31 overall. They addressed the wide receiver early on. They go many ways here, but I think we're going to help out the defense a little bit. They could go with an edge rusher. They obviously could use a little help there after the trade they made. But I like Xavier McKinney here. Maybe help out that secondary a bit. Get yourself a nice young safety late in the first round. Think I like it. The Niners could definitely trade out of here, though. They don't have a lot of picks in this draft. They could trade down, try to accumulate more. And then finally, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions. They lost some corners to free agency. Could take a running back. I've seen that. But the offense has a lot of playmakers to begin with. Give me the corner. I'm going to go with Jeff Gladney out of TCU. You've seen him move up mocks as well. A lot of people impressed with him. So, there you have it. There's the 32 picks. I'm sure I'll be back with another mock draft in about a week when I cover the first two rounds. But just want to give you guys a post-free agency mock draft. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be live tonight, so hopefully I catch some of you guys there for that. But if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.